Okay, am I audible?
Here I'm saying you're audible.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We apologize for the delay in starting. It was mentioned as 8:30, but this soapbox for sports secretary just ended, so we are starting it now. I'm Ram Charan. I'm head of the election commission, and I hope my co-commissioner is also joining. Cool. We have Nitish Gupta, who is a candidate for co-curricular affairs secretary, and this is his soapbox. The format is that he'll get 8 minutes to present his PPT he made himself. And after that, as he has no opponents, there will not be any cross questioning like in cases of HAS or ISS soapboxes. We'll immediately move on to the executive council questioning, where Mukund or other executive council members can ask the questions to Nitish. That will happen for about half an hour to an hour, and then we'll allow all the audience members who have posted a question or put a or filled the Google form that we shared. We'll post a link to the Google form in the chat as well. Uh, yeah, you can fill that form, and you'll be answer the question. You'll be called upon to ask your questions. So I would like to ask Nitish to start his presentation.
Yeah, just give me a minute, Ramchan.
Sure.
Is my screen visible?
It's visible, but I think there's a lot of noise from your dog.
Yeah. Cool. I'll start off.
Yeah, you can.
Hello everyone. So I'm Nitish Gupta from the Department of Biotechnology, and I'm contesting for the post of co-curricular affairs secretary. So in this short presentation, I would basically go through my manifesto and the various initiatives which I have planned, which I would like to implement if I am getting if I'm getting elected. So, coming to my vision for the Institute co-curricular sphere, my vision is essentially to expand and diversify the Institute's co-curricular sphere by making more opportunities accessible to the Institute students and initiate and essentially enabling them to expand their horizons. And when I say expanding their horizons, it could be in a domain which is already existing, or also in the domains which are untapped till now. Next up is I would try to elevate the stature of all the co-curricular organizations and also promote the synergy growth to ensure the holistic development of all the stakeholders. Uh, so, you guys would already know that there are essentially five organizations which are under the co-curricular sphere, and I personally believe there is a very good pipeline which is in the co-curricular sphere, and there are a lot of potential collaborations within the organizations, and a lot of synergy growth could be promoted through those. So coming to my manifesto, these are kind of the key highlights of my manifesto, wherein I have listed down all the points for each and every organization. Essentially, further in the presentation, I'll take up each and every organization one by one and briefly discuss the points pertaining to each organization. Uh, Coming to CFI, which is the Student Innovation Lab of IT Madras. In my opinion, because of the COVID pandemic, in the co-curricular sphere, CFA is the organization which is worst affected because essentially all the people who are in the clubs and the competition teams, they essentially haven't got a hands-on experience and got a hands-on experience due to the online setup. So when the institute reopens, it becomes very essential uh, to resume the CFA activities, and the students can get to work in the CFA as soon as possible when the institute reopens. So essentially, what I'm planning is a maintenance drive wherein CFA workspace will be restored, which isn't been used until in year, and proper COVID safety precautions and proper SOPs will be in place so that the resumption can start off. Next up is introducing blockchain and cryptocurrency divisions under the WebOps Labs. Right now, there is a interest group which is already in place, but the students aren't able to take up projects in these domains because this is something which is not yet formalized, and it is which is something which is not yet formalized. So these two divisions will be brought under WebOps Club, and these domains will be further explored, and different projects will be taken up. Coming to the avenues of engagement, this year being an online scenario, a lot of CFI clubs did a lot of activities, and all the club sessions were recorded and done online. And let's say the PDC club or the analytics club did a multitude of sessions on a particular topic, which can further be used as a repository and can be put up on our CFI YouTube channel, which can ensure that the knowledge from the CFI can be further spread to outside institute students as well. Further, again, being an online year, it is very essential that there is a proper transfer of knowledge within the team, and for this, further alumni interaction sessions will be there to further the transfer of knowledge. And also, since most of our alumni have been working in different tech spheres or have also been doing different research fields or something, they can give a very much diverse feedback or something, and they can help the C5 people to further take their projects forward. Uh, co- coming coming to the Institute Technical Society and the Inter-IT Technique, this year we have received a decent enough participation from the TechSoc compared to the previous 1 or 2 years. To further increase participation and to rejuvenate the glory of TechSoc, I'll be introducing the Institute Grand Championship, which is a collaboration point with the aspiring culture secretaries and also the aspiring sports secretaries, wherein overall best hostel of the year will be awarded, which will integrate all the spheres like mentioned. And also, until now, the winners of the TikTok are facilitated in a different ceremony and not in Gymkhana. So this is something which I would definitely try to incorporate during Gymkhana Day, wherein the felicitation will happen according with the list of winners and also the DS Trophy and Federal winners. Next up, for the TechSub events, right now, generally, let's say for a brain squeeze event or similar events, uh, a Google Form link or something or something of that sort is essentially circulated on the email and on the Facebook page of TechSub. So I would try to make the TechSub website as a one-stop solution for everything, wherein a dynamic leaderboard will be introduced, a TechSub Hall of Fame will be introduced, and all the releases, updates, and submissions of all the events will happen through a TechSub website. Uh, Coming to inclusivity and collaboration. So one thing which almost none of us will deny, that there is slight less participation from the PG community when it comes to the TechSoc events. So more research focused events will be introduced in TechSoc to further cater to their needs. Also, timely surveillance of technical inventory will be done, so that it will be made sure that the hostels are prepared for any of the high-prep events which will be done as a part of TechSoc. For the inter-IT team, before we go into the inter-IT team, inter-IT participation, like collegiate jamboree will be conducted, wherein it will be kind of an informal session with the previous inter-IT contingent who like sustain feats, uh, put stories kind of, and also professors will be involved so as to share and give their valuable feedback to this year inter-IT contingent. Uh, this was the first year Shastra went completely online, and in my view, Shastra team did a commendable job when it came to organizing the fest. Uh, to further diversify and expand the outreach for Shastra, the current and the prospective sector of the Tech and Innovation Fair will now include industry and academia as well, and it will be further diversified to include a number of to include a wider assortment of projects and to give more opportunities to the student to come in with their projects. Next up, the campus ambassadors of Shastra will be delegated as the contingent heads for the Shastra Grand Challenge. Okay, so I'll wrap it up in fast. Apart from this, for the branding and engagement, the Shastra trademark will be acquired, and the Shastra app will be revamped to make it a one-stop user-friendly solution. Uh, Coming to ESL, for branding and engagement, there will be extensive outreach done for E21, which is the only student-run initiative by ESL as of now. And again, the campus ambassadors will be involved herein to reach out to schools. again, on the lines which we did for Shastra, different patronages will be secured from COVID organizations to further open up new opportunities and strengthen these as well. For engagements and collaborations, there will be two new initiatives which I would like to propose. One is a startup one to give the students a cohesive startup environment through community co-working spaces, and e-symposium wherein the first year or second year students will get kind of get hands-on experience to different entrepreneurial related activities. For Irman, the onboarding process will be further structured
Nitish,
and
your
more.
time is over, so just compile it up in next 10 seconds or so.
Okay, cool. So for Nirman, basically these are the 3 points: restructuring onboarding process, revitalizing demo day, and streamlining Nirman startups hiring through team up, which will be a collaboration with each. Further, for my credentials, I've been the part of Shastra team for the last 3 years as a core of sponsorship and PR, as the head of corporate relations team, wherein we raised highest sponsorship ever in the history of Shastra, and previously the coordinator for the engagement. Yeah, so if you guys want to connect with me or like have any questions, like just scan this QR code or visit the Linktree website.
Okay, thank you, Nitish. So let's move on to executive council questioning. So Mukund, if you have any questions, you can go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Good presentation, Nitish. So before we even start, for the sake of greater good, can you tell GSB and everyone here about your motivation to become CoCAS as such? Yeah.
Okay. First of all, thanks Mukund for asking me this question because this is something which I wanted to cover in my intro slide, but due to time constraint, I couldn't fit it. So even before I had came to the institute, I was acquainted to all the institute organizations because of my brother who is now right now an alumni. So he often used to come back to the home wearing a Shastra t-shirt or a C-tight. Okay, so C-tight t-shirt. Back then, C-tight like T-shirt was called C-tight, and he used to narrate stories how he was involved in the co-curriculars, where like organizing the first E-Summit and all that stuff. So when I came to the institute, his love for the co-curricular sphere kind of influenced my decision and inclined me toward this sphere. It started off by attending various CFI club sessions, and then later on in my first year winning the TVS IDP challenge, and yeah, being part of the Shastra team for the last 3 years. And definitely all these experience which I have gained through being part of the co-curricular sphere have made me a better person and and has also kind of prepared me for my upcoming challenges. But for me, the major motivation is the kind of people who are present in this sphere. When essentially I spoke to any of the courts, super courts, or be it our courts, uh, they aim for nothing but the best. And I still remember this year for the final day of Shastra, the kind of experiences and the kind of experiences, ambitions which my coordinators spoke to me. This is something which I highly value a lot. And as a core team member of Shastra, my set of coordinators and my set of super coordinators worked for my vision without any incentive. Now I feel it is actually my duty to give back to the sphere and help the entire student community to excel in whatever endeavors they have pertaining to the co-curricular sphere. So this is my major motivation to put for the position of CoCAS.
All right. So Nitish, I have some couple of questions with regards to your manifesto. There are quite a lot of things that you mentioned in your manifesto, which I've personally found in a bit of gray zone. So first of all, can you elucidate a bit more on C5 maintenance drive and your plan of action on it? Because there is totally an uncertain atmosphere right now as to when institute is going to get open, even if let's say if it is going to get open sometime the month of September or October. Are your plans of C5 open house happening will be similar to what it has been over the conventional time, or is it going to change? So yeah, uh, try to keep your answer crisp and to the point. Yeah, please go on.
Okay, so like you rightly mentioned, the opening of the institute is very uncertain, and that is the main purpose of having a maintenance drive for CFA. As to when we get a heads up, this is the time the maintenance drive, this is the time that the institute will be open. I'll make sure that the maintenance drive is done because I don't want the students to go into the institute and then they'll have restriction as to they can use the CFA workspace or not. At least what I can ensure from my side is that C5 workspace is in a proper condition and is in a working state so that the students can actually start off working. Coming to my plan of actions, this is something which I spoke to the dean of students as well. Basically, what we'll try to ensure is to take the help from the G4S and the ozone workers.
Hi, sir.
And Okay, take the help from the G4S and the ozone workers, and get the things and get the C5 workplace properly done. Depending upon what all are the SOPs with regards to the institution, proper COVID protocols will be kept in mind. Let's say a proper time frame will be decided that okay, for this specific period of time, a specific luck can come in for that particular time, a specific luck can go out, and it will be ensured depending upon the COVID SOPs will be there in the institute, that there are no large gatherings happening at one common time in CFA.
All right. Nitish, again, one of the other question which I had few doubts in regards to the points that you have mentioned. You mentioned that you wanted to do some research-based event. You wanted to introduce some research-based events in TechSoc.
Yeah.
I suppose when you would have talked to the current TechSoc head or even other team members who are actually involved in TechSoc, they would have clearly told you that the participation of TechSoc is something which has started off increasing this year. In the previous year, participation has been really, really bad. Do you think
Right.
introduction of events as niche as research-based events is going to help the situation at all? If yes, explain it properly. If no, what will be your proposal for the same for inclusion of PG community? Yeah.
Okay. Now here's a point. Like TechSoc events as a whole, like you mentioned, previously we weren't getting a lot of participants. This year there was a steady increase. Uh, Now most of the participation which we get for TechSoc is essentially from the UGs. Now let's say when I'm including a research event, it is kind of promoting to include participation primarily for PGs, but it in no way restricts any of the UGs to participate in any of the events. Let's say for example we had student academic conference in inter-IIT, wherein we had 3 UGs and 2 PGs. So it actually kind of makes sense that UGs also are kind of interested when it comes to participating or like taking part in few of the research events. Also, this could be a like let's say if we are having something like a poster paper and poster presentation, this could be a very good incentive for let's say people who are in currently in the final years or something and would be actually pitching for their DDP reviews or something also for that matter. So this is one thing. Additionally, from the previous instances, there have been competitions like physics bowl, wherein at the end of the day, it was ultimately the PG team who actually won that competition. Wherein apart from that PG team, there were other 30 UG teams also who were participating. So essentially, it could be looked at two ways. Okay, you are bringing in more diversity to the TechSoc events. At the same time, you are promoting participation from the PG communities primary, but also giving the UGs also a one more incentive and a one more event kind of a thing, wherein they can try their hands on at research.
Okay. A follow-up question to this. Have you spoken to Research Affairs Secretary about this particular thing? Because there have been a lot of times when such kind of proposals have come in the past, no tangible actions have been taken on the same. This is point number one. The second thing is, just to clarify, there have been a lot of times wherein we actually find it very difficult to get technical affairs secretary from PG hostels. Given that particular situation, how are you going to work on the overall scenario? Yeah, please go on.
Okay, coming to the first point, whether I've spoken to the current research affairs secretary or not, essentially, for the exact primary point is not something which I had discussed, but this thing had actually came up that there is actually less participation from the PG community. And one thing which was coming up was, okay, there are reasons like they are busy in their research field or something, but one more thing was the kind of events, let's say the hyper events or the other events which we have been doing as part of TikTok are essentially which the PGs have already tried or done during their undergrad year. So they eventually don't see much of an incentive when it comes to participation in teacher events. So this is first thing. Second thing, sorry, Mukund, can you repeat once more? Like what was the second part?
Yeah, my second question was usually we find it very
Okay,
much
yeah,
difficult to get. Yeah.
technical. Yeah, okay. So again, as rightly pointed by you, most of the times the technical affairs secretary position of most of the PG optals stay vacant. In that case, we'll probably look to find out a PG representative who can take care of all the PG hostels. But again, it is very much dependent on if we find any person who will be willing to take up the responsibility and will be willing to work. Coming to if we have a PG representative, how he or she will be involved with all the events is essentially what I'm planning is ki there will be frequent hostel council meetings wherein all the UGA hostels ke technical affairs secretaries will also be there with this PG representative if we don't have any, let's say, technical affairs secretary from PG hostels, and ideas will be shared as to how each and every hostel is trying to promote the TikTok events and the TikTok culture in general in their respective hostels.
All right. Okay. So right now, there's another question which actually is there in my mind, which is more of a follow-up for this. See, there have been a lot of times when we have been getting some feedbacks from different members of GSB that there have been fairly less participation of PG community in CFI. Uh, as one of the co-curricular affairs secretary aspirant, what do you feel can be done? And if you have any plan of action, how you're planning to execute it in the coming time? Yeah, please go on.
Yeah. Rightly pointed out. I completely agree with this point. Ki there is this participation of PGs in the CFAR, but that being rightly said, there are PG students who have come up with like great ideas and uh, great projects also for a matter of fact in CFAR. Be it let's say the Avishka, for example. Now coming to how we'll able to like bring in more participation from the PGs in CFAR. So essentially, I feel approaching the PGs directly as let's say a co-curricular affairs secretary or someone from CFI might not be a very good idea. So there are two ways. Either we can approach to the research affairs secretary, or we can approach to the current professors which are actively involved in CFI. Let's say if there is one project who any of the professors, let's say for that matter, is taking care of or mentoring or is involved, we can essentially ask any of their postgraduates also to help out the current students in that particular project or something. That way, the postgraduate also, which will be involved in any of the projects, will have kind of an incentive that his or her guide is essentially saying him or her to involve in the project, and that can bring in more participation.
Okay. Regarding this research-based event only, I think the current TechSoc head have few questions. Ramcharan, if you permit, can I call him out to ask the same? Or anyone from student election
Yeah,
commission for
sure.
that?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Mukund. Yeah.
Rishabh, if you're here, please unmute yourself and you may proceed with your question.
Uh, yeah, Nitish. So, as you said regarding the research-based events, so I had a question that how exactly will you be bringing in diversity? Because see that of course it will be open for UGs and PGs equally, but we'll
Mm.
have high participation from PGs, and
Mm.
the PGs have been doing the research. That's the primary role. I mean that's the primary academy. So don't you think there will be a bias towards them?
Okay, so I won't say there would be a bias. Let's say for any event for the TikTok, there would be some sort of inclination for a respective branch or respective domain for that matter. Let's say if there is an event like physics ball, it is most likely that people who are interested in physics or something might participate. Let's say if there is reverse coding, essentially people who like logic, quizzing, and all sorts of that matter. Uh, People of that domain will participate. Again, like is there if there is any high event like a manual robotics, mechanical background or a similar background might be willing to participate. But we don't have any major event right now for that matter, which will cater to any of the research domain for that matter. And okay, I might agree to this point. Ki this might bring in more participation from the PGs, but I'll be slightly I'll be I would rather say that okay, primary participation might be on PGs, but in no way it is restricting any of the UGs to put up. Like I mentioned, people are there. Like even in the inter IT SSC, there were three UGs compared to two PGs when it came to presenting the papers, and also there might be the final years who will take it as an incentive to put up their DDP kind of review and get a mock review session kind of thing through these events or something. And this is primarily just regarding to the paper and poster presentation. Like I'm just leaving out events like physics ball or something.
Okay, yeah.
All right, Nitish. Let me move on to my next question now. So you mentioned that you wanted to revamp the process of Nirman teams onboarding.
Yeah.
I would like to know about what is the current process which is there in place, and specify the major revamps that you want to bring in the teams onboarding. Also, let me know why are these changes very much necessary, considering the fact that the changes, I mean, the current system which is in place has been really functioning well. So, yeah, please go on, and then there'll be a couple of follow-ups. Yeah.
Okay, so this year essentially we made kind of lot of improvements when it came to the Nirman onboarding process. Coming to like you asked, what is the current process? Right now, the people have to fill up a Google interest form about the startup which they want to like onboard in Nirman, and then essentially they have to submit an executive summary, which will be further reviewed by the Nirman alumni. Okay, and these
Okay.
Nirman alumni will further like score the startups and all. And once after with the scores, they are shortlisted. They are further sent to the presentation to the Nirman board meeting, and the Nirman board essentially finally takes up a call which startup to take in this startup to pre-incubate in Nirman. So I believe essentially this is the current process which is in place right now. Uh, Coming to why essentially I would like to revamp or make small changes in the current process. When I was speaking to a few of the student teams and few of the people in Nirma, what I realized was over a period of time, majority of the students who come into Nirma, they either realize that the startup which they are planning or the idea which they had, it's either very difficult to enter that market or there are already similar products when further they go into the market research. Also, all the Nirman startups who are pre-incubated, they get a 12 funding for a matter. And most of the times, how it is seen is this 12 fundings is kind of often understood. Okay, so essentially, when I say that I would like to revamp, there are few things that I would like to suggest and would like to bring it into processes for the funding part. वाला part. Let's say we can ask the Nirman startups in the initial stages for a cash flow summary or something can be submitted as part of their application process, so that this will kind of ensure that the dual funding which they are receiving, it's not kind of very underspent. In addition to this, a market evaluation or a study of entry barriers before they eventually apply for Nirman can be done by them, so as to like, they get a very good idea of how much is the scope when it comes to entering in that particular market for their own startup.
Okay. There's a small clarification, Nitish. The point of pre-incubation is to find out whether it works or not, and whether it has competition or not. So yeah, this is something that has to be kept in mind. Uh, yeah, the other point is regarding the major changes or revamps that you want. Have you done any feasibility checks for the same? Who all have you spoken to? And please mention the name if possible. Yeah.
Okay, so essentially, I spoke to the program manager of Nirman, Nandini ma'am, and I spoke to one or two of the Nirman startup teams also for this matter, and they were pretty receptive of this idea.
Okay. Let me know if it was being told that the funding can be given before 2 lakh of funding, because there's a very
No, no, no,
detailed
no, no,
process
no.
that is.
Two-well funding is something which won't be given before. The idea of having this rough cash flow summary is to ensure that the startups have a very good idea of how they actually want to spend this 12 funding, and the process can be started a bit more earlier when it comes to reimbursements and availing this actual funding.
Okay. Nitish, again a clarification here. The teams, when they usually come for Nirmand, might not have a very good idea about how their journey is going to be there, how they are
Hmm.
actually going to spend the money. So them giving a idea of how they are going to use the 2 lakh money is something which is still dicey. I hope you understand that, given that
Yeah,
in Shastra
yeah.
as well, we have been conducting a lot of similar events wherein telling what exactly things are going to happen at the first place is something which is not possible. Yeah. So that's one thing which I strongly feel you must look into and would get it rechecked. Yeah.
Cool. Definitely. Like this is one suggestion which is something which I'll put up to the Nirman advisor and the upcoming Nirman advisor. And upon a mutual discussion only, something a final execution part is something which the Nirman head will take up. That is also after a mutual consent and a mutual conclusion.
All right. I just got a message that one of the events and workshops coach from Shastra have a question. Arjun, if you're on the call, please unmute yourself and you can ask the question.
Uh, Thanks, Nikhil. Yeah. Hi, Nitish. Appreciate the presentation and discussion so far. Just a couple of specific questions pertaining to Shastra, right? So, first one is let's come to the initiative about campus ambassadors as contingent head for the Shastra Grand Challenge. I know we had a discussion about this, but I wanted to ask you, do you know whose idea it is, and have you spoken to the concerned person before asking me? Because there were some
Okay.
things, some aspects I did not tell you. So I hope you found out about those.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, this was an idea of the Shastra 2020 events and workshops, and it was based on Vision 2020 by APJ Abdul Kalam. Okay, I didn't got a chance to speak to Kamesh, but the very idea of when I spoke to multiple people within the Shastra team also, the very idea which I understood of having a Shastra Grand Challenge first is to ensure a wider participation for most of the Shastra events and bringing it under one common theme. And second, to promote contingent wise participation so as to uh, give it a better feel and be a much more incentive for, let's say, tier 2, tier 3 college students. I didn't spoke to Kamesh. Like, if you wanted me to clarify.
Okay, no problem. But okay, so let's talk about the idea of appointing, say, campus ambassadors as heads for our contingents, right? Do you know why this does not work out in 2020? It's okay if you couldn't speak to Kamesh, but did you have another chance to find out
Yeah.
why this idea did not work then?
Okay.
And
First thing.
as a small follow-up, as a
Yeah.
small follow-up, all right, as far as campus ambassadors are concerned, okay. What about those institutions for which, for whatever reason, a campus ambassador could not be appointed? What do you plan to do for those institutions?
Okay, so I'll answer one by one. Coming to why it was not executed during Shastra 2022. First thing, the overall planning and the structuring of the grand challenge was something which was thoda delayed from our side, and by that time we had actually recruited the campus ambassadors, and let's say if we are appointing them or delegating them as contingent, this is something which we'll have to tell them in prior key. This is one more additional responsibility which you will be taking care of or which you will be taking. So again, for that matter, we'll have to definitely structure the grand challenge and include all the set of events which you want to bring in. Again, one more problem which might come in here is we don't generally finalize all our events at the very beginning. It is something which is a constant process, and most of the times the hackathons or something are kind of which are included at a very last moment. So definitely, we'll have to keep in mind that what sort of 7 to 8 event sets, 7 to 8 events we have to put in from each of the vertical of event team, and it could be made slightly dynamic, but a proper structure as to how the points will be allotted and all that is something which we'll have to rule out pretty early, and same has to be intimated to the campus administrators. Now coming to how will I reach out to people where there aren't any like where the campus ambassadors are not present in those specific. So first up, we'll slightly increase the intake of the campus ambassadors this year because for the campus ambassadors also there is one more incentive as to why they would want to apply, why they would want to be coming for the campus ambassador program because leading a contingent and having a managerial kind of a role is kind of a very big incentive in my opinion. Now coming to these campus ambassadors, the general role of a campus ambassador is not essentially just to promote just to promote Shastra events or Shastra in general within the respective colleges. They generally reach out to other colleges also within their cities or something. So for other colleges is one way where we'll do this. Apart from this, we have the Shastra Sampaks as well, wherein we can definitely pitch in about the Shastra Grand Challenge happening and promote more participation as contingent from different colleges. Basically, people who will be attending Sampaks from different colleges. Again, it depends on whether we are having an on-ground Sampak or an online Sampak, depending on the COVID restrictions.
All right. So just following up on this, right? Just letting you know. See, one thing was, yeah, it was delayed. That's definitely there. We had, let's say, around 3 weeks to the time of Shastra 2020 when we wanted to do this. Second most important point that I would like you to know is that this is feedback from the 2020 events code Kamesh, whom I just spoke to today. He told me very clearly that campus ambassadors felt that this is too much of a painful task for them, right? Nominating contingent members from their college, identifying the correct people for the correct set of events, workshops, or other activities during Shastra. So now let's consider the fact that we have a potentially hybrid Shastra this time, right? 2022 would be part offline, part online. Hypothetically, this is what is most likely, right? So, and we just had an online Shastra where campus ambassadors, I think, had a good experience, but naturally, it's difficult to expect them to do a lot given that they don't get to come to IITM or whatever, right? So, given that in 2020, the best Shastra ever, where we had high spawns, high everything, high prize money, great ambience, and that, how would you plan to incentivize the campus ambassadors to take this additional responsibility up when they could not do it in 2020, which is an offline scenario? And after
Okay.
this, we'll follow up on some more things. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So, yeah. So, first up, Ines, I essentially even spoke to a few of the 2, 3 campus ambassadors also to get their views and opinions. And one thing which I understood while speaking to them is we do the campus ambassador recruitment at a very early stage. And okay, let's say even we are having an hybrid model, we still aren't sure how many pre-events will be happening in Shastra. Generally, when it used to happen on ground, we used to have Shastra X, we used to have Ignite, different sparks and samparks on ground. And campus ambassadors was kind of very much involved in all these initiatives. Now, let's say again, if we are doing the recruitment of campus ambassadors at a very early stage, this is something which will come up again. There will be very less involvement with the campus ambassador at a very early stage, and that is where we kind of lose the touch with most of the campus ambassadors. And during towards the Shastra, when a major chunk of work comes from them, most of them kind of become very stagnant to some point. So one thing which I received from the campus ambassador was there is work for them in patches. So again, if there is some contingent kind of a thing, there would be some constant work for them. And for the proof of concept, until last year in Intra-IT, like we had, I believe, 2 contingent heads, and one was essentially handling all the managerial aspect, and other was kind of handling most of the technical part. The campus ambassador can definitely work as most of a managerial wala part, and can definitely come in with the contingent and come in with the contingent also when it comes to like visiting IT with us. So that is one way where we can incentivize.
Okay.
Now, yeah,
Yeah. Do you have anything more to answer, Nitish here? Or
I think uh, I think that's pretty much it. If Arjun has any more follow-ups, we can.
Arjun, I'm extremely sorry. I think the organization heads also have few questions. Let's maybe move on to that first. If you'll have time remaining, you can very well ask the other questions.
All right,
So,
fine. That's okay. That's fine. Yeah, let's go on a round robin fashion. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, okay.
I'll just
Ayush and
make the
Akshat.
last point. This is a statement here. Nitish, one more thing, avenue for you to
Yeah.
reach out to colleges not having campus ambassadors. Let's say you couldn't appoint them or could not reach out to them, right? You could consider sending a mail via the either dost or director, like or academic dean, like how we get mails from other colleges first, right? I wish you could consider this as a chance because we have a mail draft the events inbox that was not sent because the plan wasn't taken up. So this is another avenue I'd like you to think about. So just
Definitely.
consider next year.
Yeah, I personally believe it's a very good idea. Definitely something which you can take into consideration.
Cool. Yeah, that's Mukund, please go ahead.
Yeah. Ayush, Akshat, the current TCL heads. I think you guys just nudged me up that you have few questions. Please go on.
Hi Nitish, Ayush here. I have a more broader question right now. So, what is your stance on inclusion of entrepreneurship-oriented competitions at a more pan IIT level? Because in the current inter-IIT system, we do not have any entrepreneurship activities, and as a co-curricular peer, like two major organizations are coming from a more entrepreneurship oriented background. So is there anything that you're looking towards it?
Okay. So until last year, we used to have eConnect, like the very first edition of the eConnect was done by IIT Madras and then IIT Bombay. And when it actually went to IIT Roorkee, there was a kind of huge knowledge gap when it came to the knowledge transfer or something. And after that, eConnect or basically like eConnect again, like this year wasn't uh, part of the inter-IT technique. Again, essentially, as far as I know, like what happened in this year final meeting of inter-IT technique was key. This thing was something which is not brought up yet. But again, I also personally believe that having a pan India, a pan inter-IT competition kind of a sort for entrepreneurs also, which very much fits in the co-curricular sphere, and can be considered and can be put forward in the next inter-IT meeting or something. But again, it eventually depends upon whether all IITs are in the same page or something of that. But we can definitely push for it. But giving an assurance that it will happen again next year is something which is something which I can't promise right now. But definitely we can push for that.
Just a follow up here. Do you look forward to have these kind of competitions or events under a part of inter-IT tech meet, or do you want to have a separate eConnect? What will
Okay.
your proposal be?
Okay. Again, this depends on all the inter-IITs whether they'll be willing to take up in the inter-IT tech meet. If not, if let's say the next year e-salates are very willing to take up as a separate initiative of their sort, let's say including it with the summit or let's say after that, I'll pitch my proposal accordingly. This is something which I'll definitely would want to consult with the next aspiring e-salates also before like taking up a final call myself.
Okay. So I have a second and probably the last question here. ESL over the years, for e-summit or the year-long activities that we do, we have collected a lot of inventory, is what I would say, in terms of standees, all the t-shirts and stationaries, etc., which amount for which have a more inventory value of around a couple of lakhs. And since we don't have any inventory room in specific, this is essentially being they get lost, and every year we have to buy a new set of things again. So what your thought process would be to because over the years I just see that ESL activity is just increasing, and this problem will get much larger. So how do you aim to solve it?
Okay, so rightly pointed out, if we have some inventory or something like whatever t-shirts or standees or something which we are having in place will be kept safe and also further can be used for our future events or that matter. Uh, I'm really not sure like whether a proposal of a new inventory room or something of that sort has been brought up in place. So this is again like if we are willing to have some inventory room or something, we'll definitely have to look out for are there any vacant rooms or something for that matter. As far as my understanding, there might be few vacant rooms in domes or behind near the green room of SAC. I'm really not sure, and I haven't done a feasibility check for that. But if it, I also believe like, it's very necessary, and if it's again like if it's of utmost importance, I'll definitely consult it with the dean of students and also the dean planning essentially to look out and see if there is a possibility of having an inventory room for each cell as a whole.
A follow-up here is that Shastra and Sarang have their inventory rooms, according to my understanding, in the Nirvan working
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
So, will a similar do you see that a similar kind of inventory room can be organized there, or
Okay.
maybe in a collaboration or something of that sort?
Got it. So essentially, incorporating it in the Nirman co-working space might not work out because there is already a limited space for the number of pre-incubated startups which we have for Nirman. But let's say if there are vacant spaces in, I can assure for Shastra at least, if there are vacant spaces remaining in the inventory room of Shastra, a small part within the room can be gave or included for each cell as well. That won't be a problem.
Okay, I'm done. Akshat, any questions
Yes.
from your end?
Yeah. Hi, Nitish. So I had one question. So, apart from ECEL, there are a lot of other stakeholders, institute bodies, or per se professors which are working towards the entrepreneurship. And but in the past years we have been able to get in touch with only say two or three and collaborate with them to do the events, say namely IIT Ma or IITM Incubation Cell. So, what are your plans to make this untouched opportunity accessible to the institute students, and have you talked with any of the stakeholders yet related to entrepreneurship?
Okay, so coming to the involvement of professors with regard to entrepreneurship. So I think this year itself, you guys started with the team up platform, and I personally believe it's a very good initiative with regards to involving professors and all. And further taking forward, I'll definitely upon the discussion with the next CCLAT as well, I'll definitely take into consideration that it is expanded or leveraged to a better use. Uh, Apart from this involvement of professors in other entrepreneur-related activities, is we have been essentially doing a lot of uh, sessions with alumni founders and startup founders or something of that sort. So if we can potentially like loop in any of the professors also for that matter, who can share his or her entrepreneurship journey or something, is might work out. But this is something which is like coming up at just at top of my head. I haven't uh, thought of it until now, but this is something which is coming up at top of my head right
Yes, Nitish. So apart from professors, for example with GDC, also with CSI, we are not able to do anything. So and also we are not able to set any structured process to approach the stakeholders. So have you thought anything related to this?
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, with I'll take up with IITM Research Park and IITM Incubation Center. So one thing which I would definitely want is the one initiative which I mentioned in my manifesto is regarding startup Wing, wherein we'll be needing some community co-working spaces. Therein we can definitely we can definitely stay in touch with the incubation cell and also the research park for that matter, and from there on we can establish better connects or something. Again, coming to the independent organizations like CSI or even CETA for that matter, is something which we haven't explored yet until now. But definitely, like let's say this year we had Punk, which was focused on MSMEs, and there was essentially a policy making competition of that sort. If we are planning to do similar initiatives or similar event for that matter, we can definitely look at something like a CTAP or like CSI for that matter. This definitely can be.
Okay. Yes, over to you, Mukund.
Thank you. We'll move on to CFI head. I think he has a couple of questions, and then maybe if other executive council members have questions, they can ask. Post which, if time permits, the other co-team members can also question. Tejas, if you are here,
Yeah.
please unmute yourself.
Hi,
Yeah.
Nitish. So I have a question about the finances of the CFI. So it's a common observation that CFI gets only some portion of its actual budget from Gymkhana, and that's true, especially in the case of competition teams. And that's exactly the reason why it's very difficult for competition teams to meet their new goals and ambitions every year. Now, looking at the very uncertain nature of sponsorship money, what, in your opinion, should be the long-term and sustainable plan for finances and funding of CFI?
Uh, okay. Yeah. So got it. Yeah. Rightly pointed out that there has been every like it's kind of every year wherein the competition teams have been facing budget crunch, and essentially when I was speaking to the competition teams as well, this was something which came up in the discussions. And as rightly mentioned by you, like sponsorship is something which is very uncertain. So coming to how we can there are two ways, either to reduce the cost wherein we are using our budgets, or like to increase the set of budgets. Now if I take up the first part, so essentially when I was speaking to a few of the team members of Raftar, what they told me is most of the time they have to go to the outside vendors or something to make their 3D printed projects or something when it comes to like having a proper complete accuracy or like proper something of that sort. So if we can try to do it in-house through the workshops which we have in uh, the workshops wherein we have in IITM, that might reduce the cost. But again, this is something which will be very nominal considering the amount of budget we have for the completion teams. Now, one thing which I'm pretty certain about is uh, the IITM alumni is pretty supportive for CFI, and they have been supporting a lot when it comes to these initiatives. And through CFI also in general, the IITM community has been getting a lot of brand outreach and all. So even for the competition teams like let's say Avishkar, when they went to US and all, I believe it was one of our alumni IITM alumni who provided them some workspaces or something to keep up their car or something of that sort. So again, we'll definitely seek out help from the alumni. Previously also we have done that, but definitely tapping into alumni and using that as a good source of funding can be should be explored in a more wider.
Okay, I just have a follow-up on that, Nitish. You mentioned about getting more work in the workshop of the IITM, right? So, what do you
Yeah.
think are the challenges? What are the current challenges in that, and how we can address those challenges? If we
Okay.
have to increase the amount of work getting done, if we have to decrease the outsourcing.
Okay, so right now I believe there is one or two C5 associate. There is one or two people like who are associated to C5 from the IITM workshop team, and most of the time they are essentially not very skilled or something. If we have to go for some skilled labor or something within the workshops, we have to I believe raise a tender or something and have to pay accordingly. So if we can get these things done at a lower cost or convince the administration for that matter to at least appoint one person who is pretty skilled in this domain for CPI specifically, I believe a lot more things can be done in-house rather than outsourcing. But again, as I pointed out earlier, like this is something which will not drastically affect the cost or the budgets for the competition teams.
Okay, thank you, Nitish. My second question is about the collaboration between Shastra and C5. So, every year a good amount of workshops during Shastra are conducted by C5 members. So, what is your opinion about streamlining this procedure by branding a subset of Shastra workshops as C5 organized workshops? Where the C5 managerial teams will be involved in the ideation and execution in collaboration with the events and workshops. And how else do you think we can establish the synergy between C5 and Shastra?
Okay. I'll take up the second part first as to how to establish synergy between CFA and Shastra. I believe right now, the way which we are working, there is a lot of synergy. Like Envisage is something which is common to both CFA and Shastra. This year, the C5 Open House essentially happened during Shastra. And like you rightly mentioned, the C5 trainers are pretty helpful to us when it comes to organizing workshops and all. Essentially, what other things which we can explore is key. At least for it has been tried 1 or 2 years, at least in 2020 Shastra, that there was kind of how should I put it up, a exhibit kind of a thing from Raftar team or something. If we can have in from most of from all the three or four or from all the four competition teams, that would be pretty good. Apart from this, the Z5 exhibit, Z5 projection, all are already being done and exhibited. Coming to your point of branding the workshops as separate C5 workshops, I believe this is a very good point and can be considered. Uh, but again, when it comes to the students attending the Shastra workshops in general, they generally don't have a very clear picture of as to who will be actually like giving them the workshops or who will be basically addressing the workshop. So again, this is something which I'll have to essentially speak to the events and workshop course as well and decide. But again, this is a very uh, I believe this is a very good point which can be thought about and can be considered. But I'll have to take up a call with the events and workshops for as well after deciding. And like you mentioned, there will be a collaboration between the C5 trainers and the events and workshops coordinate workshops course when it comes to finalizing and deciding upon the topic. So I have to discuss with them and sit down with them and discuss with them also.
Yeah, sure. I don't have any follow-ups. Just a small comment that I brought this up. I brought up this point just so that it can help actually create a brand, C5 brand outside institute as well. So yeah, you can definitely think about it. Yeah, thank you.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah, there's just one last question for now from TechSoc head. So Rishabh, if you can unmute yourself and ask the question, that would be helpful.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Nitish. So, since you have specifically mentioned about the importance of hostel technical inventory and the surveillance and management, I just had a question that currently quite some hostels do not have a dedicated tech room. So even if they buy the inventories, it gets lost after a year. So they need to buy it again. So I just wanted to know your opinion that what can be done on this.
Uh,
What like
so so essentially the idea of doing a technical surveillance is something which is on the lines of what is currently happening in the sports fair as well for the Dean's Trophy. So what these guys essentially do is ki, let's say when the Dean's Trophy is coming up, let's say Dean's Trophy is starting in March, for example. Now after January end, there could be a surveillance anytime and they'll allocate points. Let's say if all the equipment are there, they'll allocate 10 points. If few things are not there, they'll probably remove few of the points. Now the kind of replicating it in the co-curricular sphere and specifically what so the idea behind is most of the times, like you mentioned, most of the times the hostels are in general not equipped with all the equipments and all. So let's say if a high prep event of manual robotics, let's say, is coming up around October ka time. So September end can be fixed as a deadline for all the hostels, and after that a surveillance can be done and be ensured that all the hostels are prepared at least in terms of the inventory and in terms of the equipment for any of the high prep events for textile.
Okay, yeah, I mean that is fine, but okay, yeah, I mean this can be considered with next TechSoc head as well. But the thing is, like, even if after the surveillance, after the event gets over, the inventory gets lost. I mean, there is no special location to save it. So,
Okay, understood. So essentially, like as far as I know about the Jamna hostel, there is a technical room, but like you mentioned, there it is something which might not be the case for each and every hostel. So this is something which can be put up or communicated to the aspiring technical affairs secretaries for next year, and they can ensure that this is. And probably I can also push with the help of tips of it to include something of that sort in their manifestos and make sure that it is something which is getting implemented.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks.
Okay, I think for now, maybe if any other secretary have any questions.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. Hi, Nitish. Great job so far. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. So the first question is regarding, let's take Shastra for example. I mean, it applies to ESL and other spheres too, but mostly like let's just restrict ourselves to Shastra for now. So obviously, due to it being an online Shastra this year, there is obviously a couple of teams. Mostly the teams that take care of facilities and requirements. I'm guessing it's the O and IP team would have suffered a lot of lack of experience. And I'm assuming most of your course in the coming year are going to be from current third year. And you yourself being only in the past in the part of spawns team, do you think? I mean, not do you think? How would you bridge that knowledge gap? Since you also haven't been a part of of a heavy on-ground team, and your course also haven't have had experience with an on-ground shastra as much as you would expect. So
Yeah. Okay. Coming to the second point of how like have I been involved in any of the operations or stuff or something. So essentially, for the sponsor and PR team, it is in Shastra, it is essentially the sponsor and PR teams who tie up all the banners and eventually set up stalls also few of the time. So this is something which I have done quite a few times when it came to handling of the sponsors. But yeah, like being rightly said, this is something where we'll have to take care that most of the people in the core team won't be equipped with, let's say, a proper on-ground experience. They would essentially be in the coordinator here or something. So in that regard, the involvement of the past year core team and also the past year core team members becomes very essential. So this is something which I'll make sure from my side, and also this is something which I have done keep for this year. I have spoken to a lot of people from this year core team and also from past year core team. So as to essentially, it is give me a feel and give me a sense of everything when it comes to on-ground Shastra. And this is something which I've communicated to the aspiring course of Shastra as well to get proper fundays and all. Nevertheless, if I am getting stuck at some place or if I am pretty skeptical as to what I have to do, I'll essentially take the help of the student general secretary or the hostel affairs secretary who will be equipped. And if they are also in a pretty dilemma wala stage as to what to do or how to go about it, I'll definitely seek help from the dean of students as to who I have to approach for any particular requirement.
Great, great. I mean, just a like line of suggestion. This is something we are also considering in our cultural sphere, not entirely executed yet. But I think since this knowledge transfer is gonna be a repetitive issue, so I think documenting a lot of these funders, if you can start it from your aspiring course themselves, as and when they take funders, if you can make them document it, I think it'll help future teams also. Just like a suggestion. So the second question is again, let's take a hypothetical case where the next year's Culsex and some Sarang course come and tell you that they are planning to have a gaming arcade, which is going to involve heavy tech and a lot of VR games.
Okay.
Let's say this is the case. They bring this up to you. So there's no, I'm not expecting any like one correct answer or something. Just tell me how you would handle the situation.
Okay. Again, it depends on case-to-case basis, and it is very subjective. Let's say if this game wala thing or VR wala thing is specific, let's say if a sponsor is bringing on something, essentially it becomes very essential for the Sarang team to have it because if a sponsor is making you do something, it becomes pretty essential.
No. I mean, let's not take that specific a case also. I mean, I think just take a couple of minutes, note down broadly what categories it might fall under. Which categories would you completely object to, or which categories, if they're in the gray area, how would you handle them, or which categories you're totally fine with.
Hmm. Okay, so let's say essentially if it's something like e-sport or something, I'll be completely fine with it. Like there are no issues with regard to that. But let's say if it's like completely AR VR and involves very heavy tech, is something which I'll definitely have to sit down with the next year colleagues and take up a final call because this is something which has been brought up in Shastra 2020 as well by one of the sponsors. But again, if it's like e-sport or something, I won't have any.
The fact that we bring this up to you is because we still consider VR games as a part of esports, right? So how would you make that distinction, and how will you handle that VR aspect of it?
No. Can you come again, Vishnu? Sorry, I missed you.
No. I mean, I intend to say you could still write off a VR and AR game as an esport. So,
Okay.
but obviously, I do understand there is a little overlap between Shastra and Sarang here when it comes to VR specifically, as opposed to
Correct.
let's say like FIFA or anything of that sort. So, in this
Correct.
VR's case, how will you handle the situation? How do you draw boundaries or stuff like that?
Correct. So, like you mentioned, like this is actually kind of overlap kind of a thing because as far as you know, Shastra 2017 had has some nation lived up for record for the highest number of VR yet to be made in Bessie Beach or something. But again, it comes to a point if let's say the Sarang team is very willing to do and like isn't falling into a very technical domain, I am open for a discussion to discuss and to see if it's possible to if it will be fine to have it in Sarang or something, and I'll be very open to it. Like if it's not harming Shastra in any way or in any way particular, I'll be very open to it and let it
Great,
happen
great.
in Sarang.
Great. Just last question. So I think you had a manifesto point about a common championship. I don't remember the name exactly, but like a point where I think one of our aspirants also has mentioned collaboration between sports, tech, and culturals. Just elaborate on that point and like why do you think it's necessary?
Okay, so I personally believe like even if it's sports, even if it's tech, or even if it's like cultures, everything begins in the hostels. And right now, uh, at least for the freshie batch, they don't have any hostel fees for now, and even for the sophomores because they essentially haven't been allotted to any of the hostels. And this, in like having an institute grand championship or something of that sort, will bring in all the spheres as together. Let's say if any Lit Talk event is happening for that matter, the technical affairs secretary of that particular hostel will also push in the hostel inmates and the the Litec of that particular hostel to participate in those set of events. Similarly, will be done for the Schroeder, Dean's Trophy, and the TikTok events. So I believe this is something which is bringing in all the sphere as a whole and will inculcate more hostel fees.
Okay. So I mean, again, my doubt is where I'm lost is it a common award that is given in like
Yeah,
considering all the scores from different Litsoc, Schroeder, and
yeah,
TechSoc, or is it a separate
yeah.
championship league itself?
No. Basically, all the points from TikTok, and the sports
Okay,
sphere will be
it's
counted.
just an award considering all the points tables of
Correct,
across all leagues. Okay, cool,
correct,
cool. I
correct.
mean, I was assuming it's a separate league altogether.
No, no, no.
Okay,
Okay.
cool, cool.
Just a follow up to what Vishnu asked. Nitish, while the point of having common championship sounds really good, don't you think this is going to further bring a hindrance to the TechSoc participation? Because now people will have to fight for the common thing. They can very well prefer putting some fight for sports Schroeder for that matter, or say Litsoc,
Okay.
considering the fact that there will be huge amount of knowledge and expertise which will be required for TechSoc event. Don't you think this is going to further badly hamper TechSoc? What's your viewpoint on that?
Okay. I believe even now people have been actually putting fight for the Litsoc events and the Schroeder events and also TikTok events for that matter. So I don't see if there is some common championship or something, they'll
I
just
mean,
focus
I
on.
can provide one way in which Mukund's point might act out. Let's say, so you have a common championship. Now that is an incentive of itself. What might happen is, let's say, okay, I'm from Saraswati. Let's take Ganga and Saraswati, two examples. Let's say Ganga is putting a heavy fight with TechSoc, and I feel
Okay.
I only have an edge in terms of Litsoc. So then I'm incentivized to focus more on Litsoc than I'm focusing on TechSoc, right? Rather, if you focus more on incentivizing TechSoc itself as a separate league, won't people be willing to put fight only through TechSoc? If you have a common championship, then people have other avenues to, like, how do you say, bypass what they can achieve. Like, I mean, bypass how they can achieve that award instead of just focusing on tech.
Okay. So accordingly, when the overall championship will be giving, the points will be normalized in such a way that no particular sphere को undue very big advantage or disadvantage is being given. Kind of equal importance will be given to all the three spheres, so as to make sure that essentially the hostels try to dig deep into and participate in all the three spheres. And this is again something which will be discussed upon with the Texo head, the Sangam heads, and the events course of Sarang, and essentially the new Cultics and the sports secretary socket also, like
Sure, sure.
how to divide the point and normalize the point is something which definitely we'll have to consider and take up.
Sure, sure. That's it from my side.
So I think let's move on to audience questions.
Actually, I think Harshal and Rohit wanted to ask a question. If you can just finish those two questions, we can maybe move on to
Yeah,
audience.
sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Harshal, wanted to ask something.
See, I don't know. I have joined the meet a bit late, so I don't know what happened till then. So I just have one concern. So this year there was a lot of overlap, right? So how are you planning to tackle that next year? Are you going to continue whatever happened this year to next year, or are you again going to discuss with the upcoming teams and decide then?
Okay,
This is not
Harshal, like, can
exactly a
you?
question. This is not exactly a
Yeah,
question.
understood,
It's
understood.
just some
Like, can you?
assurance I want. I want you
Yeah,
to give on record here so that you know our teams next year might use them.
yeah. Like, can you clarify like overlap on
Like let's
what
say
See,
comedy night conducted by you guys, and like there is a
Okay.
semi music and techno event that happened. So like stuff like this.
Okay, so like this was one question which was brought up in my T5 interview as well, and the very first thing which I spoke was we always try to bring in some technical dimension to each of our shows. Like even for the music show which we mentioned, the first part of it was done by a UC public professor who essentially kind of explained all the nitty-gritties of this. And again, if there is even a slightest bit of overlap when it comes to any of these domains for that matter, definitely we'll keep the next year Culsec in loop, and after upon a mutual consent only we'll take up a final project. Definitely we'll keep in loop. There is no way
cool, cool.
we'll be going ahead without like a proper assurance from my side or your side.
So let's say you said you have you think of some technical aspect to include in a normal show, right? So what if the
Okay.
upcoming Culsecs try to include some entertainment aspect to a technical show? Okay, does this
Okay.
count? Does this thing count as you know, and
Understood.
what is
Understood.
your take on this? Yeah.
Again, this is very subjective as to what sort of technology or what sort of new
Let's take
dimension.
let's take
Yeah.
RoboWars for example. See,
Let's
RoboWars is
say,
robot wars.
okay, okay. So
So
let's say,
yeah,
okay. Now let's say, essentially for making the RoboWars or like having a event for RoboWars, like this is one event which is already happening in Shastra, and essentially, uh, for RoboWars to make, there is a lot of technicalities and a technical background knowledge which you'll have to essentially make a robot in 10 foot of
yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, like, let's say if it's something of a RoboVerse, I'll be slightly hesitant to like give it a go from my side as of now. But again, I'm always open for a discussion for anything of that sort which the next year else is bringing into. But as of now, if you ask me, I'll be slightly hesitant to put up something like a RoboVerse.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair point. I think just one more question. Harshal actually brought it up. So justify why there's only one CoCAS. Like in a case, given a choice of two co-curricular affairs secretaries. I mean, the distinction can be of your
Yeah.
choice. So do you want just one as of now, or would you actually prefer two? And if two, how would you define the roles?
Hey, Vishnu,
Okay.
you asked my question.
Is that your question? I thought that was Harshal's question.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. You frame it again then.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. If Rohit wants to answer, like ask it in a way which he wants to, like he can ask, and then I'll probably answer the question. If not, I can go ahead and answer Vishnu's question.
No. Answer it. I'll ask another question. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. If you'll ask me, or if you, okay, first I'll just give a brief introduction of how the co-focus is. Like there are 5 organizations, and I believe there's a very smooth pipeline which is in place. Okay, you go into C5, have a first hands-on experience to take. Then you just go into the IHG competitions from TechSoc, implement the tech, participate in that competition. From there on, you go to Shastra competitions, participate to a bigger level. Once you get a very good proof of concept of your prototype or something which you have made, get your ideas nurtured from ECL or some ECL, get your ideas nurtured, get it mentored, and then you get it incubated in Nirma. It is a very smooth pipeline which I believe is there. Now let's say for a matter, if we have two forecasts, let's take a hypothetical case. Now, first of all, there won't be a clear demarcation when it comes to the work of both the forecasts. Now, let's say if we are planning to bring in a clear demarcation, okay, let's say one forecast will handle all the technical part wala thing. I essentially will handle C5 and Shastra and TechSoc, and the other will handle mostly for the innovation and entrepreneurship, which will cater to ECL and Nirma. Now, between all this, I personally believe the pipeline will get further disrupt, and also TechSoc will be affected because essentially TechSoc is a culmination of events from both G5, Shastra, and ECL. So, in my opinion, it makes a lot of sense to have one CoCAS first because of this pipeline and the amount of possible collaborations which we can have within the organization and the synergistic collaboration. And this in turn also makes the CoCAS position a very challenging position and with like a very challenging position also, which I would want to be kept in a way which is it right now. So in
Okay,
my
okay.
opinion, one
Let's say
CoCAS.
so. Yeah, sir. Your explanation for why you don't want two co-curricular affairs secretaries with different jurisdictions makes sense. Definitely great. What about two co-curricular affairs secretaries with no difference in jurisdiction? Just like Harshal and me, for example, like Kalsex.
Yeah,
So
adding on
compared to
to
that.
what Vishnu is asking, why can't you have a co-catch for the UG and the PG separately? Because I don't see participation from the PG that much. So what would be your idea for that?
Okay. Essentially, over the past year, CoCAS tenure or something, which I have also, I personally, I'm not sure whether there has been a complaint or unresponsive from any of the CoCAS side. He or she for that matter hasn't been unresponsive or hasn't been able to entertain any of the responsibilities which is for its his or her respective organizations. So I definitely don't see a point, to be honest, to have two forecasts, even if there is a clear demarcation or not a clear demarcation. Essentially, handling these 5 organizations by one single person ensures that one person is accountable and will promote a lot of synergistic collaboration within all those 5 organizations. So I essentially don't see still don't see a point to have two CoCAS for that. Because if there would have been cases wherein the CoCAS would have been unresponsive or not held accountable or wasn't aware of any of the responsibilities or the initiatives done by any of the teams, then it would have made sense or should have been given a thought to have two CoCASs. But until now, everything has been going pretty smooth and pretty fine, and all the five organizations, for that matter, have been doing great in my opinion. So I essentially don't see a point in having two CoCAS.
No, the question was not that, Nitish. The
Okay.
question was everything is going fine, okay. But if you have another CoCAS, will it become better, or is it just the best that you can do?
Exactly. I mean, see, you worked in a sponsor team, you were a core and sponsorship team of Shastra. You had two cores. Do you think the presence of second core was a net positive to you, or would you have done better only with one core? I mean, with you being the only core.
Okay. See, coming to having two cores, it definitely helps. Like whenever I was equipped with something, I had one more core who can like take up my job or something. But essentially, we'll have to see to it that when I was the core for sponsoring PR, I was the one who was like responsible for all the activities. Now, when it comes to the CoCast, for most of the teams, let's say C5, ESL, Nirman, TikTok, each of these teams have a head associated with it. It is just Shastra who the CoCAS is directly heading. For the other position, it is more sort of an advisory position and giving in suggestions and giving in ideas. So again, if again for just heading one organization having two heads like two positions, it kind of dilutes the work of CoCAS first of all. And again, over the years, this position has been pretty much challenging, and it is known because of the five organizations which a single person handles, which is something which I wouldn't want to compromise with.
Okay, Nitish, but then what about the PG side? Like, your Shastra is, a campus activity, right?
Yeah.
And it is for all the students on the campus, and the majority of them are PG, including MBA, MSc, MA, and all. But
Yeah.
most predominantly, we have seen participations from the UG side, right? In terms of attendance and in terms of the team and everything. Why do you think the PG is not being involved, or what would you do to, have a more holistic opinion of the student on the campus, so that Shastra can cater to
Okay.
everybody?
Okay. Coming to the PG initiatives from the co-curricular Square side, like okay, I'll start with ESL. Like this year, we had a introductory session for all the MBA people who actually came into the institute. To let them know about what ESL essentially does and how ESL how these people can be involved in ESL. Even coming to the TikTok, I actually mentioned that I'll be definitely focusing on more research focused events. For Shastra also, a lot of workshops are essentially done by the research scholars. Okay. And previously we have had research events also in Shastra. Okay. Apart from this, Nirman already has a PG
No,
representative, and there are
can you explain more about the research activities you had in Shastra?
okay, and I believe until 2018 there used to be until 2018 or 2017 there used to be a research conference or a set of research set of events which used to happen. As far as I know, it got scrapped because we first we weren't able to get in people who will eventually organize it, because at the end of the day, if we are organizing some research conference or our connect sort of a thing, we essentially need people from research background to be involved. So I essentially believe there uh, there isn't a lack of initiatives when it comes to for the PG community from the co-curricular space side. I believe it is the lack of awareness and the lack of branding when it comes to uh, all these initiatives within the PG community. And I believe if this could be streamlined more and more outreach can be done for these set of initiatives, I believe we'll slowly and steadily start getting more involvement of the PG community. And I believe this is something which won't happen in, let's say, 6 months or 7 months. It is a constant process and it will take some time, but slowly and gradually we'll definitely be able to reach up to a limit wherein a lot of involvement will be there from PG students as
Okay, I think my final question, just to follow on this thing, and then I'm done. What are the initiatives are you planning? Like, have you seen the initiatives which were earlier planned and did not work out, or do you have something specific in mind when you're saying initiatives about awareness and outreach? Because as far as I remember or understand, currently it is, we are having this open house, lab demos and everything, where I see the involvement of the PG to be a little bit more. But other than that, I don't think there has been any involvement or specific outreach for the PG.
Okay. Even for this year, Shastra, when we had the institute open house, we essentially weren't able to approach to the department institutes directly, and that is when I believe we took help from you and also the PG scholars and all of that particular lab or something. So that is one way wherein a lot of involvement was happened, and also for the technical innovation where we are planning to include academy and research as well, academy and industries as well as part of the prospective sector which we have right now. So definitely there will be some involvement there. Apart from this, like mentioned, in tech talk events, more research focused events will be there. And one more thing, which Mukund had asked me initially about lack of PG, lack of like unavailable, sorry, uh, technical affairs secretary not been there in PG or something. So again, if we don't have anything of that sort, we'll definitely select a PG representative from a PG hostel, so he or she can probably increase the awareness or something. And one thing which I believe we should definitely try out is if there are any sort of things which are specifically for PG students or something, we'll definitely involve the next research affairs secretary and circulate these sort of things through him, because he'll be the one who will be more sort of knowing about the PG people, and he'll be more interactive with them. So that might help out in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Just a suggestion on this thing. Make sure that you talk to the next RAS and take his opinion on your programs, because essentially if you're going through to the PG from the RAS side, you need to know his plans. But I don't think you should be doing that. That is just my suggestion that you can directly go as well. Okay.
Okay, sure. I'll definitely speak to him.
Yeah.
Take it.
I have a question. Can I ask Meher? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible, Ramsey.
Yes, Ramcharan, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is something similar that we have asked in the past. So you are unanimous. Last year Mukund was unanimous, and before him Pravalika was also unanimous. And I think from 18 to 19, Vamshi Krishna had an opponent, but even before him also it was unanimous. So do you think is there any systematic barrier that is stopping more candidates from contesting, or is there a reason? Do you think there's a reason why there's only one candidate, one on 4 of the past 5 years?
Okay, I essentially see 2 points why people are like slightly hesitant in putting for a co-curricular affairs secretary. First, because if you see even my credentials or even the previous year CoCAS credentials over the years, he or she has been involved in 2 or at most 3 or 4 spheres, but there are 5 spheres which the CoCAS has to cater to. So I believe that is one place wherein the CoCAS is slightly hesitant. But again, that being rightly said, for me at least, this was something which motivated me and challenged me to put for this particular position, because I wanted to be involved in all the 5 organizations. Secondly, I'm not very sure of it, but how I see is the co-curricular secretary position is some way kind of thought of it as a fifth year secretary position, because over the years also, if you see, only the fifth year secretary is someone who has essentially become a co-curricular officer, which
I wanted
I
to
believe,
mention that.
yeah, which I believe should change over the course of time. And how it can do is, okay, in Shastra there are courses who are from third years or something. So definitely, if it will slowly and steadily, again I feel, will gradually change, and one or the other person from the fourth year will definitely come up and put for co-curricular secretary, because uh, the intake in the number of dual degree students from the institute has been decreased. So I believe somewhere down the line, this thing will come up and a fourth year candidate will definitely put up, because till now there is no restriction at all. Anyone can put up for a secretary position. It's just that people have this sort of mentality which is kind of restricting them to put for this position.
Okay. Having said that, that you've mentioned that a co-curricular secretary is usually has been a fourth year student because they have to be involved in a lot of
Fifth
other.
year student. Fifth year student.
You're in a fourth year student. I mean, you're okay. Like
Yeah, but
contestant. Yeah.
hmm.
Okay. Same thing. So, given that and given the questions Vishnu and Rohit have asked, do you think that could kind of do you think that there need to be two CoCASs given the answer that you have just said, that people are kind of hesitant because they think they have to do a lot more?
Again, what I essentially mentioned in the very first point also, this will eventually dilute the work which CoCAS essentially a CoCAS takes up, and also this will disrupt the pipeline which we have right now for the co-curricular sphere. And having five, okay, people might see it as a slight hesitance when it comes to handling five organizations, but if you ask me, I see it as a luxury, because I have five organizations which anything comes up from the co-curricular sphere, I have five organizations which I can go into and suggest them things and delegate work to them if required. So rather than seeing as it's something which is hesitating people, I should think people should see it as some sort of luxury key. They have five organizations to handle, and whatever initiative comes up, they have the required set of manpower and also the required set of people with the required skill sets also to handle everything.
Great. Thanks for your answer. You can go to audience mayor.
Uh, in case if we have, if in case if we don't have any questions from GSB, I think few of the core team members have some questions. Should I call them up?
I don't know if mayor is not audible to me. Is he audible to you? I think we do have questions from audience. We'll just a second.
Sure.
We can do. I mean, it's Nitish's convenience. Nitish, it's fine if we go until 11, right?
Yeah, it's fine. No problem.
Okay. There are a couple of questions from few of the core team members of ESL. So Shreyas, Neha, in case if you are on call, please unmute yourself and you can ask questions.
Yeah. I think the will is that Tejas Theolus here.
I think he's the current CFI head. Tejas, if you're here, if you have any further questions, please.
No, I already asked the question. That's fine.
Okay. Vaidehi Mishra.
Yes,
Yeah, you can go ahead with your question.
right. Hi, Nitish. Really great
Yeah,
session so far. And just to provide a little bit of context on, my profile, I'm an outgoing core of the corporate relations team at ESL, and I'm one of the aspiring heads for the coming tenure of ESL as well. And I found your manifesto really interesting, and it had some really great initiatives mentioned for ESL.
yep.
So my question to you is based on your point on patronages from global organizations.
Okay.
So, very often we observe that there is a great degree of overlap in outreach of organizations from multiple bodies and insti. So, for example, two very different teams from IIT Madras could be reaching out to the same organization. In this case, it could be global,
Okay.
for supporting similar kinds of initiatives. So
Okay.
in this kind of a scenario, it is quite possible that the organization will opt for only one of the bodies. And, it will probably lead to some internal conflicts within the institute bodies. So how do you plan to tackle these kinds of situations?
Okay. So essentially, how I'll tell you how the patronages thing works. Generally, the patronages applications, what essentially we have to build is a set of activities which we have to, which we'll be doing it under, let's say, if we are trying to get a patronage of Shastra. So all these patronages, let's say Startup India or let's say UNESCO for that matter, they have certain guidelines which we have to actually fulfill. How we are fitting into their values or how we are fitting into their goals and all that. And till the point of time, any event or any organization for that matter fits into that domain, they'll be kind of giving you that sort of, they'll be allowing you to use their logos and all, and you can essentially tell them as they are your partners. So there might be a case wherein let's say ESL and Shastra or even other organizations for that matter approach a similar pattern for that matter, but until unless it fits into their vision, it won't be a problem when it comes to allotting the patronages to any of the organizations.
Right. So I'll just follow this up. So, extending beyond global organizations, if we look at corporate firms or corporate organizations, it so happens that their mentality is such that, if I am currently sponsoring or associating with one of the bodies in IIT Madras, why should I consider another body at IIT Madras with a similar kind of outreach or similar kind of deliverables and value associated with the IIT brand? So even in that sense, then how do you plan to, go about it?
Okay, so again, in that case, there have been situations wherein a common sponsor has sponsored both the organizations. Even this year, for a matter, Wells Fargo sponsored both Shastra and ESIL. Mahindra sponsored both Shastra and Sarang. Uh, Mahindra has been sponsoring both Shastra and Sarang over 2 years. So I don't see it being a very big point as to organizations just being very focused about sponsoring any one festival or something for that matter for a specific thing. Uh, because what they essentially see is the kind of target audience which they'll be hitting. And definitely for Shastra, for ESL, for Sarang, and even for any other organizations, all the target audience are pretty discreet and pretty different in that regard. And having multiple sponsors over the years for having Spain sponsors for multiple organizations over the years has proved it. Like I mentioned, Wells Fargo, mine.
Right. All right.
Okay, done, right? We have one question from an anonymous person, so I'll just ask it. Uh, so I'll just read out the question. So they're basically saying like if next time is also online, some of the competitive teams are planning to begin their fabrication during the next term. So how will this be facilitated by your initiatives? Do you have any initiatives to help new C5 competitive teams like Team IITM RoboCup or Team Arihant AUV to achieve their goals during this pandemic?
Okay. I'll first address the point how the competition teams can actually like start off with their work or something. So there are few competition teams who we have gotten permission to, essentially allow the teams to go into the institute and start off with their work. So essentially, if a need arises and it's very urgent or very much required, we'll definitely push it through to the dean of students and to the director that there is a necessity for this particular competition team or these particular people to be present in the institute and start working. And the C5 maintenance drive is a very essential point when it comes to with um, uh, starting off work in C5. Now coming to the competition teams of the RoboCop and one more team which you mentioned. So right now,
Arihant
yeah,
AUV,
yeah.
unmanned area, something like that.
So right now, as far as I know, there is no specific budget allotted for these two teams. Or I'm sorry, but I'm not sure whether they are identified as competition teams under CPA or not. Like this is something which is has to clarify probably. But I'm aware that this is something which is being in process, and they are willing to take up initiatives and actually willing to chart their own team or something. And if that is the case, we'll like once if I'm selected and also when the new chief head is selected, we'll definitely take this up and discuss what is the vision of this team and what are the things which they are trying to bring it into the picture and which they are trying to get done. And once we have a discussion with that, we will take it up and see how they can be involved, and if needed, if they want to go to the institute or something, is something which we can consider.
Okay,
Yeah, so just a clarification on this point. So, Team Arihant and Team Robocup are the interest groups as of now, and we'll trace their progress throughout the year. And after having discussion with our faculty advisor, we'll decide if we can actually take them up as a competition team or not.
Okay. Do we have Aryan here? HS19, H51.
Yeah. Hey,
Go ahead. Go ahead with your question.
thank you. So, hey, dude. My question is that
Yeah.
you've mentioned, you've spoken about associations with UNESCO and all. How do
Hmm.
you plan to go on ahead about it? I
How
mean,
do
do
you
you have
plan
a
to?
go on ahead about it? Do you have a framework already as to how you expect, I mean, us to secure this branding, and why should it be something that you are doing instead of an initiative that's already, or rather should be taken care of by the already extant PR team within ESLRT Madras?
Okay. So essentially, I'll tell you why I have put up a patronage point specifically for research. So this year we got it for Shastra, and it actually helped us a lot. We had Startup India pledge, which essentially helped us in outreach, in better outreach for the events which were brought under the Smart City Challenge under Shastra Grant Challenge. And also for the UNESCO patronage, it helped us connect to various different stakeholders when it came to the social campaign of Shastra for this year. Now, why is it necessary, and why I have put up? Now, seeing at the scale which both e-summit and Shastra have been operating, I potentially see it to go upwards and onwards only from here on. And I feel the patronage is one way which can definitely be used as a very good point to further go upward from here. Because first, okay, PR part is one factor. Key, okay, you will get better PR and better brand value associated with it. But when you are associating and getting patrons from these particular global organizations, you are opening up a new arena of opportunities in terms of connecting to people globally and taking your competitions and initiatives at a global level. So essentially, that is one reason why I put it up in my manifesto, because I personally feel it is kind of very much required, and uh, to go up, but from here, like this is a one very good point which I see to be going with.
Am I allowed to follow up?
Yeah. I think you are allowed one follow.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Awesome. No, my question was, why is it something that you specifically are doing? What different value
Okay,
addition can you add to attaining
got it.
this?
This is something which I won't be doing. At the end of the day, it will be the ESL heads or the ESL particular marketing and PR team or any other relevant team who will take up this thing. It is something which I'm just proposing and suggesting them. Obviously, the execution part is something which I won't be doing.
Right. Fair enough.
Cool. So, do we have Prashant here?
Yeah, hi Nitish. Good so both so far. By the way, I mentioned that you mentioned that Shastra next year could be in a hybrid mode. So I'm just interested to know what exactly you mean by hybrid and what's the plan for that.
Okay, essentially, when I say that Shastra will be shifted to an hybrid model, is basically segregating few of the initiatives of Shastra and doing it in an on-ground setup, and the rest can be potentially shifted to an online mode. Let's say, for example, the high-prep events, the aero modeling challenge or the manual robotics, something which actually require a lot of uh, hardware requirements and all these stuff. So this is something which I would like to have it on ground. But let's say if there is a competition wherein you essentially need to log into a portal and sit at a place and solve coding or something. Let's say it could be the Shastra programming contest or something. This can potentially be shifted to an online mode. Again, this is something which will depend on uh, what all are the COVID protocols are in during that particular time. Definitely, I personally would want most of the initiatives to happen on ground to give all the participants, stakeholders, and also the team a very good experience. But again, this is something which won't be in my hands and will depend on what all are the COVID measures we'll have to take into consideration.
Yeah, okay, okay. Well, just a follow up. Like, in case you are trying for this hybrid mode where you're calling people for high prep events, so people will come and they will need accommodation, right? So, are you planning accommodation inside institute, and are you going to follow COVID protocols, or are you going to try accommodation outside or something?
Again, as far as my understanding, it might be very difficult for us to get an accommodation. So we are sponsored deals like OA or something, which we'll further explore. If we are getting a heads up from the CCW and from the administration that we can accommodate people, then definitely that would be something which will be welcomed.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Cool. So Nia has a question, so she can unmute herself and ask.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Nitish. And I had questions regarding E21 outreach program that you had mentioned in your manifesto. What, in your opinion, should be the ideal time to launch the same since you haven't mentioned a timeline in your feasibility report?
Okay.
Keeping in mind that you've also mentioned leveraging CAs for, furthering the outreach program.
Okay. So essentially, when I was actually thinking about E21 and planning to do a better outreach, I essentially wanted to be in an on-ground setup wherein you can actually go to schools and kind of interact with them and have some sort of ceremony thing or something. So when I was speaking to a lot of people from ECL, I realized that we do it for E21 as well, the on-ground outreach program. And this year it wasn't done because of the online setup, and we see a pretty good participation in an online setup. So we aren't sure whether we'll do it again for Elevate. Sorry, for Elevate. Sorry, I missed when I was speaking about this thing. So coming to the timeline of it, if let's say we are doing the outreach for Elevate as well, we'll do it. We'll do it with that, like with the Elevate outreach program. If let's say we are scrapping of the Elevate outreach program and sticking to an online outreach program, then we have a lot of flexibility when it comes to seeing the students ke what is the students ka academic calendar or something, so that we can do an outreach program when they don't have exams or any tests or something going on. So eventually it will depend on how the academic calendars of the students and all is in line with.
Okay, fair enough. Now that you've mentioned about Elevate, I had a follow-up. You had plans of, since about redirecting the budget for on-ground outreach of Elevate for E21. So, exactly, if it happens the case that we're trying to revive the on-ground outreach for Elevate, then what would be your stance on that?
See, the very idea of having it with the Elevate was to save some cost and to take care of the logistics issues which might come in. So essentially, if we are having the E21 outreach program with Elevate, there will be very minimal logistics cost. So that was the reason why I put it up with Elevate, so as to minimize the logistics cost. But again, if we are scrapping completely the outreach of Elevate, we essentially save a lot of money. Uh, we'll essentially save a lot of money, and that will give us a lot of flexibility with regard to the date. But again, if we are sticking with the Elevate outreach program also on ground, we'll definitely have to put up a time or fixed dates accordingly, which is beneficial for both Elevate and E21.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Cool. So Shreyas has some questions. So Shreyas, you can ask these.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, Nitish. So I had a question regarding startup which is mentioned in your manifesto and feasibility report. So for mentoring, you plan to involve startups from the particular co-working space, and I think usually mentoring is more effective when it is done by a sector-specific mentor, right? So I see a possible threat here, just in case a team is not able to get a startup aligning with with their sector in the particular workspace. So what will be your plan in that case?
Okay. See, so the idea of having mentorship from the starters which are already in co-working spaces uh, is just one idea. But definitely, if there are starters who are like definitely we would like to keep it sector agnostic and cater to all the startups which we'll be getting. So definitely we can look for external mentorship, external sources of mentorship as well, which we essentially do it for quite a few of our events, which we do it in eSummit as well. So having mentorship from the already existing startups in the co-working spaces was just an idea, but definitely, if need be, we won't be restricting it.
Okay, thank you. I just have one follow-up to this.
Mhm.
In your manifesto and feasibility report, you have mostly talked about conducting startup event in the offline mode, where I think if you have mentioned it to be conducted in the odd semester, I think we'll mostly have to conduct this initiatives in the online mode. So in that case, if we have to do it in the online mode, can you brief us about your plan?
Okay. So essentially, the very idea of introducing Startup Mind was to give a startup environment and essentially through community co-working spaces. So essentially, I would not want to do it in an online case. If being possible, I would try to shift it to an even semester. Let's say slightly sometime before e-summit or after e-summit, whenever we have the required workforce to take care of it. But the very idea of introducing it was to give the startup kind of an environment. So I'm pretty optimistic that okay, even if let's say we come back to the institute and we are restricting to going outside the institute, I'm pretty sure we'll be allowed to use institute resources. And if the space permits and the time permits for giving the startup environment kind of environment, we can probably use the Nirman co-working spaces or places which are pretty close to institute, like the IITM Research Park or incubation center. But definitely, in my opinion, I would not want to do it in an online scenario.
Okay, okay, fair enough. I just had one more question. Am I allowed to ask one more question as audience?
I think you can ask like
No,
I don't think there are. Okay.
Okay.
I mean,
But are you like a core or something in ESL like that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm a core team member in ESL.
Mukund, should we allow him to ask more questions and
If there are any questions which are different to the ones that have been asked, please go on.
Okay, sure. So Nitish, this question is regarding the e-symposium that you have proposed. ESL already conducts the idea validation meetups and startup series where we try to invite from the relevant sectors. So how is e-symposium different from that, and does it include any other agenda apart from the generic mentoring?
Okay. So essentially, having e-symposium is kind of to promote entrepreneurship culture in institute and at least like give each and every person in the institute give some flavor of entrepreneurship. So let's say when a freshie comes into the institute, he attends the co-curricular fair orientation. Correct. Now, after that, CFI has various CFI club sessions and all. Shastra has its own freshie event, takes or even start of something. But with regards to ESIL, the very first thing which generally used to happen was team launch, wherein the first interaction kind of thing used to happen for the freshies. This year we started off with e-buddy program, which I feel is again a very good initiative. So this is specifically to kindle an interest in entrepreneurship at a very early stage. Let's say for startup series and all, we initially expect some sort of idea from the teams and participants. And then we'll take up. But this is kind of a step zero for that to at least kindle some interest in the students. And essentially, the idea is to do kind of hands-on experience, hands-on sessions or something wherein they'll get a proper feel of this. And the idea actually comes from let's say the very idea why I put it, including the alumni founders, and alumni and charter founders as well, so as there could be someone who can actually moderate the session or can attract more people also. So I yeah, so that is pretty much it. Like giving a kind of step zero experience for all the initiatives which we already do.
Okay, as a follow-up to that, as you mentioned the hands-on experience to be given to this, also you said that you're not expecting any mm, a lot of prerequisites from the start of participating. So in that case, what do you exactly mean by giving them the hands-on experience? Because
It,
in case of yeah, go ahead,
yeah.
please.
See, it could be very basic, as simple as like having some sort of discussion with regard to any specific technology or something. It will be very open-ended, and the agendas and all will be specifically decided beforehand so as to get the right set of audience. But right now, what essentially happens is that people don't generally talk about entrepreneurship, or let's say not speak up about in general. In Okay, to give you a proof of concept for that matter, there is Toastmasters Club in the institute, which eventually meets in 1 or 2 months and discuss upon on various topics or something. And they have kind of form an interest group or something wherein people essentially kind of develop an interest in public speaking or something for that matter, and then take up these things. So a similar model is something which I'm planning to do it for ESL as well, wherein people actually start speaking about entrepreneurship and start considering it as a choice or something.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So there are no more audience questions, so I guess we can revert back to executive council. So Mukund, if you have any more questions, you can.
I think one of my core have probably one question. So Arjun, in case if you are on the call, you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to take a few minutes, but sure, okay. I'll keep it quick. All right. So Nitish, it's just a question about your other. Okay, I went through manifesto and a couple of other questions. I'll make it quick. So first one is see about the blockchain interest group, right? You have a point which mentions you'd like to institute a blockchain and cryptocurrency division under WebOps, right? So
Yeah.
are you aware that 2019's CoCAS, Amsi Krishna had a similar blockchain interest group plan? Have you
Yeah.
ever spoken to him about this and why it didn't
So
work in his view?
yeah, so he had a point of introducing a blockchain interest group, which essentially right now is also present in the institute. What I'll be essentially doing is be taking a one step forward, and we'll be taking in projects with regards to blockchain and cryptocurrency divisions. Right now, there is a blockchain interest group. Definitely, I believe it was Vamsi's point, and it was brought up in his tenure or this year tenure, which I'm not aware of. So essentially, the problem which these guys are facing is right now still right now, because they aren't under C5 and they haven't been brought under any of the clubs, they aren't able to take up any projects or something for that matter. So I'll be formalizing the process a little bit and bringing it under the DevOps club. So essentially, those set of people can take up projects on these lines.
Okay, also one more follow up on this is that have you spoken to the current Fin Club heads? Okay, first thing is okay, Fin Club is now under career development cell, right? And blockchain and cryptocurrency makes logical sense to be under them. So have you spoken to the Fin Club head about moving it under C5 if you plan to, or what are your plans with this?
Okay, I had a brief discussion with regards to finance club in general with the aspiring academic affairs secretary, and things are slightly hazy at that particular time from their end. Like, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to like tell this in public, but things are slightly hazy uh, with regards to the Fin Club cutting. So, okay, cryptocurrency still okay, might be overlap, but I believe blockchain is something which the WebOps it very rightly fits in the purview of the DevOps Club. And when it comes to taking up the project also, it will be more sort of, a lot of technical project or something. Essentially, as far as my understanding is concerned, what FinClub essentially does is they take a project on, like they projects like on algorithm trading or something, or similar on those lines. But blockchain will be pretty much different on those lines. And there are one or two professors also within the institute who have kind of explored these domains, which will definitely seek out to for any help required for like mentoring any of the projects or something for that matter.
All right, then last question. Right. So manifesto talks about let's say expanding tips, right, to bring industry and academia in. So nice idea, but I wanted to ask you: did you ever consider bringing in, let's say, more academia via research conference, which okay, the events team last organized in 2018 didn't happen the last couple of years. So let us
Yeah.
say you plan to Events Course plan to bring back the research conference? How would you draw a line between TIFF expansion and bringing in academia and industry connect through the research conference?
Okay, so essentially, the idea of bringing in academia and research both for TIP was currently we anyways reach out to all the department HODs when it comes to the institute open house. Now, the kind of projects which we are getting in the TIP, getting in through like the Tech and Innovation Fair, it is not kind of very necessary that those set of projects will be willing to go into any of the startup sphere or something. It could be like they would want to dive into the industry sphere or also the research sphere. That is the reason we are actually bringing in both academia and research. Now coming to the research conference which you are mentioning under events team. So if that is the case, if the next year event scores are planning to bring this under, definitely we have to draw lines, and it will be first decided that what all activities are being planning to bring under the research conference, and if there is any sort of collaboration within the TIF and the research conference, it would be further catered to. If not, the boundaries and the set of activities which both the two teams will be doing will be properly underlined and taken care of.
All right, sure. I think that would be it from my side. Mukund, back to you.
I think I'm pretty much done. So yeah, I think in case if any executive council, okay, I think none of them are here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it from my end. Ramcharan, Mihir, if there's anything remaining, yeah.
Yeah. So, Nitish, we have a question from SEC side. So, as you know, secretaries have a constitutional duty,
Meir,
and
your
they
voice
need to.
is cracking a lot.
Okay, just a second, just a second. Is it is it fine?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, so as you know that secretaries have a constitutional duty towards they have a constitutional duty and they need to be accountable towards SCCC and SLC. So, what penalties would you like to award yourself if you do not uh, submit the reports or rule book in a timely manner?
I think this question was essentially asked to the previous, like in the previous boxes to previous candidates.
Yeah.
And as they mentioned, like I would also definitely owe an apology to the entire GSB because sticking to timelines and sticking to deadlines is something which I also kind of pretty adamant about it. So definitely I'll owe an apology, and definitely like it happens for any of the other things, disciplinary action which is being done. A similar thing which the SLC takes up or decides will be further taken care, and I'll definitely look after it.
Okay. So, I guess if others do not have any questions, so we can end the soapbox. So, thank you people for joining, and the voting is on 7th April, and you can go on our Instagram page and YouTube channel and watch how to vote, and do vote on 7th. Thank you so much. We can all leave.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Bye.